Hey, welcome back, Howard. Good to see you. Welcome back. Dr. Jaws here, and it's really good to be back. Actually, I'm so sorry I wasn't able to do the stream last week, kind of unexpectedly, but I'm happy to be back and to be talking about a new shark species, the Indonesian whaler shark, which it's going to be an interesting one where there's not a lot of information on the species, but there's a lot of information on where it lives in terms of sharks and shark diving and the ecology of Indonesia. And I'm really excited to kind of dive into it more. And what's actually really cool is that there are snaggletooth sharks or relatives of snaggletooth sharks in the same area this shark occupies. So I'm excited to learn more about it. But hope you're doing well, Howard. It's good to see you, and hope you had a really good weekend. I took it easy for the most part this weekend, but I'm very excited to share that I set up, or did a lot of packing for camping, because I'm going to go to the Eastern Shore this coming weekend to a site that is near the water. And this time of year, we have sandbar sharks coming back in to the Chesapeake Bay to have their pups. So we have mature female sandbar sharks entering right about now. Late May is kind of like late May to early June is kind of like their big season for giving birth into the to live young in the Chesapeake Bay. The Chesapeake Bay is the principal sandbar shark nursery in the world. It's or at least in the Atlantic. Maybe not in the world, but in the Atlantic, it's like their main nursery area. So fingers crossed. I've got all my GoPro stuff and dive gear stuff, and just hopefully maybe see a couple. We'll see. So I'm excited to kind of set things up for that and go camping this weekend for the long weekend. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed. And I will definitely post anything I see, any photos, any sharks that I hopefully may run into. And what's kind of fun is that sandbar sharks are a cousin of the species. It's the same genus, Carcharhinus. So yeah. I think without further ado, I think maybe it might be good to start out with just a general overview of Indonesian waters, and then we'll kind of dive into the species specifically. So, because the Indonesian whaler shark, related to its name, is concentrated and focused not exclusively to Indonesia, but predominantly in Indonesia. So it's going to be really cool to learn more about the species because Indonesia is one of the most biodiverse places on Earth. It's one of the top shark hotspots in terms of biodiversity, and it's kind of cool to meet or kind of like learn more about the ecosystem and can see which sharks that the Indonesian whaler shark shares the waters with. So to kind of help us out, I looked up a couple different guides. So we'll start with maybe this one. This one actually seems pretty fun. So this is a pocket field guide of sharks and rays in the Southeast Asian region. So, and this guide I really like. I especially like this. This is such an amazing. It looks like a drawing, really, like a very photorealistic drawing of a white shark. I mean, it looks too clean to be a photograph, but it looks so detailed that you would think it's based on like a real animal. So, like a photograph. So. I'm zooming in because there's a fun detail that this drawing actually captures. I don't know if you could see it in the bottom left corner. Hold on, maybe I should zoom out. Oh, I hope I didn't break it. But they did a really good job capturing the eye on the shark. So let's see if I could. There we go. Okay, I'm not gonna zoom in anymore, but. The white sharks famously have a beautiful blue iris in their eyes, so it's hard to see because the eyes are so dark, but it's kind of like a cool thing that they have, and this piece of art kind of capture that a little bit, which is fun to see. Okay. Preface: This pocket field guide, Sharks and Rays in Southeast Asian Region, was prepared through a series of activities at national and regional levels aimed at supporting SEAFDEC member country. So this is, I think it's a management treaty in the implementation of CITES provisions with regard to sharks and rays under the collaborative program between CIFDEC and its member countries with funding support from CITES Secretariat. So CITES is a very important shark conservation agreement where there's very strict regulations on trading sharks or discouragement or prohibition of trading sharks depending on how they're listed in the CITES appendices. The information in this field guide has been sourced from the outputs of the above-mentioned activities. This field guide is a book designed to help the readers, for example, fisheries officers, fisheries researchers, fisheries lecturers, students, etc., to identify sharks and rays that are commonly found in the Southeast Asian region. So to kind of paint a picture of what the Indonesian whaler shark may be experiencing, kind of the waters that it lives in. To figure it would be really cool to see some of its neighbors. So starting with, we have the pelagic thresher. So Alopius pelagicus is CITES Appendix 2. So this is probably a shark that is spending some time around the reef, but really more so in open water. And that actually makes me wonder which habitat does this shark occupy? So let's see, just to learn more about it. So the upper depth limit for the Indonesian whaler shark is 0 meters, and then the lower depth limit is 100 meters. So that's a fairly shallow water shark overall. As far as habitat, let's see, the Indonesian whaler shark is a small inshore species that mostly inhabits shallow waters to depths of 100. The NOAA maximum size is at least 94 centimeters total length, so it's kind of a smaller shark, although it's been estimated to be 115 centimeters based on the jaws of a specimen. Let's see, the species is assumed to breed each year based on the annual breeding of the closely related Australian black spot shark. Age and growth data are not available for the Indonesian whaler shark, but generation length is suspected to be around 4 years based on the Australian black spot shark. That has an estimated maximum age of 6.5 years and age of maturity of 2 years. So let's see. So this thresher might be a predator of the Indonesian whaler shark if it's kind of getting close to a reef. Let's see. Especially the maximum size of the thresher is about 365 centimeters, so that's like 3 times as big as the Indonesian whaler shark. So probably a predator. Let's see who else is here. I'm going to try to zoom out. Looks like there's another thresher shark in this region. The big eye thresher, so this is more of a deep water species. We have this beautiful cat shark, the coral cat shark. So this is a lovely species that occupies probably the nooks and crannies of the coral reef. So this is a shark that probably spends a lot of time around the Indonesian whaler shark, and this actually might be a prey item for the Indonesian whaler shark. If there was a particularly small coral cat shark and a large Indonesian whaler shark. We have the gray reef shark, Carcharhinus amblyrincos. This is a very well-known species and probably a congenier of the Indonesian whaler shark. So these are they probably occupy the same space and maybe like don't really bother each other too much. They're kind of similar in size. Gray reef sharks famously. I guess gray reef sharks can be a bit bigger, but they famously have those agonistic threat displays where they point their pectoral fins down and they swim in exaggerated motions to indicate if they're annoyed and if they want any other sharks or divers or anything out of their territory. Hey Tim, welcome back. Good to see you. Hope you had a good weekend. I was telling Howard earlier I was packing up for camping. I'm going to go beach camping next weekend, which I'm very much looking forward to, especially since this is the time of year we've got a lot of summertime sharks heading back into the bay and to pup. So I'm hopefully the goal is to hopefully run into some sandbar shark pups this weekend. So it's kind of a long shot, but I'm gonna try it anyway. The campsite I'm going to is one of my favorite places ever, and I see a lot of cool stuff there typically. Like I've seen dolphins, stingrays, remoras. I haven't seen a living shark yet, but I know they're there. They are caught there in that region, and we've had some sharks wash up in that area. So I'm excited to kind of see what we can see this weekend. But we got spinner sharks in Indonesia, so another kind of like small to mid size. Actually, spinners can get pretty big, so pretty good size. Carcharhinus, so larger cousin of the Indonesian whaler shark. We have silky sharks, beautiful species that spends more of its time offshore, so this is probably not a species that the whaler shark runs into too often. Oh, sorry, I think I went a little too far. The bull shark. This one in this photo is actually a juvenile. You can kind of tell with the black spots on the pectoral fins, and actually the black spots on the lower caudal fin. What's kind of cool is that some sharks of this genus, the black spots are on the pups, and then they start to fade away as they get larger and larger. So that's one way to kind of tell with bull sharks is that juveniles, from juveniles versus adults, the juveniles will have the black tips and adults won't. And you can also kind of tell just based on the proportions of everything. It looks a little bit round, smaller, softer. But this is definitely a predator of the Indonesian whaler shark. This is definitely a shark that consume. Like even if we don't see it tonight, in terms of like if we don't have like a verifiable account of bull sharks predating Indonesian whaler sharks, we definitely know that they're predators. Just because bull sharks in other parts of the world happily go after elazabranchs. They happily go after other kinds of sharks, and they get to be that large size, and they have that dentition that's able to process those prey items. We've got black tip sharks, so very, very cosmopolitan, famous cosmopolitan species of the same genus. In this part of the world, we have black tips back. I'm pretty sure they're back by now, or at least they're making their way up here. There's a famous shark migration, the black tip sharks coming north from Florida. Every summer, black tips will move up the coastline, and then every fall they come back down to their Florida stronghold. Sandbar sharks, so another very classic species. What's kind of cool is that the three sharks that we just saw, the black tips, sandbars, and bull sharks, they're quite populous on our coast too. Like I live on the east coast of the U.S., and these sharks are all very, very much here. So it's kind of cool to see that, near the opposite of the world in Indonesia, you still have all three species, and it kind of really shows you how global sharks are. So in terms of many species have such huge ranges, and it makes conservation so important, where you have to have multinational conservation efforts, like in coordination between countries, just because sharks are so cosmopolitan distribution. We have the black tip reef shark, beautiful species. So this is definitely a shark that occupies the same space as the Indonesian whaler shark, and might be a predator once it reaches a larger size. It's a really, really gorgeous cousin. Just because the black tips are very, very deeply, I shouldn't say like deeply dyed or stained, but like they just how prominent the black tips are on the dorsal fin and the caudal fins. This is just a gorgeous, gorgeous species. Carcharhinus, the spot-tail shark. This one is a little different. This one I think is limited to the Pacific. It's not a species that I'm really familiar with, and this is a good comparison with the Indonesian whaler shark. So I think with that, here's a picture of the Indonesian whaler shark. Let's see if we could find any unique characteristics. So Indonesian whaler shark has slightly falcate dorsal fin. This one is actually a pup, so this might not be the right one to compare to. Let's see if we can find any other photos. Here's a little bit of a larger individual. So pretty strong curve in that dorsal fin, and slightly falcate pectoral fins too. Here's a larger individual, and you can kind of see that the dorsal fin is a little bit more prominent. The origin is right behind the free rear tips of the pectoral fin, so it's actually quite similar to the spot-tail shark. And spot-tail shark's dorsal fin origin is actually even further back. This is almost reminiscent of a silky shark in terms of like that positioning. Let's see if there's any other. View more photos of the Indonesian Whaler Shark. I think this was Roy's pick, by the way, so it's really cool to dive more into this kind of species. I think what we're doing now is because we've covered so many sharks on this channel, this one being number 163, which is kind of wild to think about. Oh, this is interesting. I think when we pick new sharks for the next week, we'll kind of start with the genus and then see if there's a shark in that genus we haven't covered yet. Really interesting photograph, by the way. So we have a coral cat shark here, along with the Indonesian whaler shark. So this is actually a really great, kind of going back to Indonesian ecology. This is actually really great to kind of see. It's sad to see sharks, but it's very interesting to see all these individuals in the same collection may have been captured at the same time, and just kind of shows you that okay, Indonesian whaler sharks definitely occupied the same space as coral cat sharks. So there's a photo of one too. So they got a very prominent dorsal fin. See if we can get better photos. This one's actually kind of interesting, where this one unfortunately looks like it's at a market, but it does show you just like how high proportionally the fin is. Let's see if this is not a shark photo, but this is actually a really nice shot of the jaw set. So Indonesian whaler shark has pretty interesting upper teeth. Here we go. So this tooth in particular is a good, I think, starting point. So you have a prominent and quite dramatically slanted cusp, like main cusp here. But then you have this kind of like rear cusplet that it almost looks like it's a little squat, like a little broad for crushing shellfish, but it has obviously these like two little points. So that might be good for crabs specifically, being able to kind of crack through the shell and break through it. It's interesting that the cusplets have multiple serrations. Even the main cusp, it looks like in this photo you can kind of see slight serrations on this too. So really great upper teeth that seem a little bit generalistic, except that recurve is good for oh, actually, the anterior edge has some serrations too, like the anterior edge at the what do you call it? The root, kind of towards the root, that actually has some serrations. So really, really interesting dentition, to the point where if you picked up one of these teeth, you could actually maybe identify the species or have a good guess which species it is, because it's such a weird shape. At least for the upper teeth, just because you have the main cusp and then these like two little cusplets here. So pretty cool. The lower teeth are a little bit more characteristic of a lot of sharks of this genus. So they are kind of like narrow pyramidal teeth. So they have kind of like wider bases and then a kind of a more prominent point at the center. A little bit of variety in shapes on the lower jaw. But overall, it's a similar kind of structure as most Carcharhinus. So the upper teeth are interesting, though. They like that little cusplet is quite a bit different. So pretty interesting. Let's see if we can get any other photos of the species. This is the. It's not going to load, is it? Oh, no image available for the species. That's why. So it's not going to be. It's just giving me a generic shark. So really the only image we have, and probably the best image we have, is maybe this one. I am happy to share, though, there is one little clip of this species. And it's kind of interesting. In the clip, this is called a white cheek shark, but the name is Carcharhinus tjutjot, which is the uh, scientific name for the Indonesian whaler shark. I also see Carcharhinus dusemieri, and I forget which species this is. So it looks like this is a tank with multiple species. So it says that our species is in here, but let's see. Let's kind of keep an eye out. We got leopard sharks here. We actually have a lot of elasmobranchs in this tank. This one looks like it's a different species. Well, actually, I don't know. Oh wow, there's a scalloped hammerhead here. There is a coral cat shark here. There's a horn shark in the back, or a Japanese bullhead shark. There's a heck of a lot of sharks in this tank. Let's see. Hard to tell. So this is definitely the same genus. This is absolutely a kind of Carcharhinus. It has the right dorsal fin shape, and it actually has the right dorsal fin position too, because the origin of the dorsal fin seems to be anterior to the pectoral fin, so this might be the Indonesian whaler shark. The pelvic fin has a white margin though, and I'm not sure if that's something that this species has. It's hard to be sure. Let's see if we slow this clip down. Can you imagine sitting in this tank and like diving in it, where you have such a variety of sharks around you? We have like a finback cat shark in the bottom right. We have a kind of carpet shark. It's hard to tell on the bottom screen. It's a tank full of elasmobranchs. It's really wild, honestly. We have a kind of ray there in the back. That looks like a guitar fish of some kind. Let's see. It's hard to tell. I think this might be a whaler shark. That's that hammerhead. Just out of nowhere. I think the one in the back might be a whaler shark, but it's very, very difficult to tell. And it's a good exercise where this genus is notorious for mistaken identity. I'm going to pause and see if we can learn more about the specific characteristics to help identify the species. And that might kind of help close in on it. So let's see. And we'll get back to the field guide in a little bit, because this is really, really interesting. But so Carcharhinus tjutjot, the Indonesian whaler shark. And then, it's pronounced tjutjot. So tjutjot is the Indonesian word for shark. So tjutjot. Okay, so Carcharhinus tjutjot. Yeah. Let's see. The small species is distinguished by the following characters: snout relatively long and bluntly pointed. Yeah, looks like that's correct, so that looks like that lines up. Upper interior teeth are oblique and blade-like, coarsely serrated, lateral margin deeply notched, and with several large and serrated basal cusplets. So we saw that in the teeth here. Of course, we can't see that in that video clip, but let's see. Lower anterior teeth are narrower, slightly oblique, lateral margins notched, and without large basal suri, finely serrated. Total tooth row counts that. Let's see. Body color pale brownish dorsally, whitish ventrally. Dorsal fin with a black blotch on the upper third of fin, not extending onto the upper surface of body and very well defined from whitish region below. Which dorsal fin? Second dorsal fin with a black blotch on the upper third of fin, not extending onto the upper surface of body and very well defined from the whitish region below. So it looks like this shark has that, actually. The second dorsal fin does look a bit darker. Let's see. I think this might be an Indonesian whaler shark. It's hard to tell. It looks like there's a lighter area at the base of the second dorsal fin. There's definitely white fin margins on the pectoral fins too. Let's see. Other fins are mostly plain. I kind of think this is an Indonesian whaler shark in the clip, but what do you guys think? Because the things that are helping support it are the size is right. The dorsal fin is pretty prominent. The second dorsal fin does look a bit darker on the top. The things that are kind of throwing me off, though, are the white margins on the pelvic fins and a little bit on the pectoral fins, too. So let me know in the comments what you think, if this is an Indonesian whaler shark or not. I think it is, but again, this is a very notorious genus, and also this hammerhead is photobombing this shark. But this is a very notorious genus for just having very difficult members to identify, or it's very difficult to identify species from each other. So, another question for the chat, by the way, too, is I felt really bad I wasn't able to be here last week, but I left kind of a puzzle or a challenge with this 3D CT scan study. So this is actually, I've done this before. It's been a couple years, but this paper that I posted on the Dr. Jaws channel, it tells you how to install the software that allows you to take a look at these CT scans of shark jaws. And basically, like, you could drag them and play with them and, see like a full 3D perspective of different species. So we have, as an example, bonnethead sharks here. But, oh wait, that's not a bonnethead shark. This one is what species is this? This one actually might be an angel shark. No, not with the lower teeth. Hold on. Wait a minute. This is an angel shark. I believe this is an angel shark of some kind. Yeah, this is an angel shark. Okay. So, but anyway, this article kind of tells you how to download everything, and then you can go to town with different jaw sets, and like you zoom in and you zoom out. So there's actually a lot of cool 3D CT scan models of not just jaws, but I think there's some institutions that have 3D models of actual sharks, like actual shark specimens that have been preserved and are in a collection somewhere. So there's a couple different 3D visualizers and that you can play around with. So it's a really cool tool to use, especially say you need to have access to a lab specimen, but you don't want to like travel, or like you can't arrange for someone to ship the jaws or the material to you. This is a great way to do it digitally. So it's kind of like a fun challenge, but let me know in the comments. Leave a comment if you're able to load it, just out of curiosity. So again, because it's been a couple of years since I've done this, but it's pretty cool material. Howard said it looks correct as far as the shark identification, but I'm no expert on these guys. Neither am I. What's interesting is that when you get to Carcharhinus sharks, well, actually, two things. One, if you get to Carcharhinus sharks in the Pacific, I feel like they get a little bit trickier because there's more diversity. Like there's more species that you can confuse them with. And then two, Carcharhinus is a very interesting genus where you have your classic large species like the bull sharks and the blacktip sharks and the sandbar sharks. Those are very well known large members of the genus. But you have about maybe 10 to 15 small Carcharhinus sharks that are really not well known. So you have like the Pondicherry shark and the lost shark, this Indonesian whaler shark, the white cheek shark. There's quite a few that are smaller. They're like mini bull sharks or mini sandbar sharks, and they all look quite similar, and it's just very hard to tell them apart. So in total, I think Carcharhinus has 20 some odd species in that genus. So very, very, very tricky one to identify to a species level. So Going back to kind of the biodiversity area, because we kind of went on a tangent off of this small Carcharhinus, Carcharhinus, the spot-tail shark. Let's see if there's any others in this field guide. Looks like we're moving on to bamboo sharks. Oops, sorry. So this is the white-spotted bamboo shark. So a very popular aquarium species. Really exciting, the brown-banded bamboo shark. So this is a very fun species that is a distant cousin of nurse sharks, and you can see that with the nasal barbel that's pretty prominently here. Also similar coloration to a nurse shark too. Indonesian bamboo shark, so another kind of carpet shark. The tiger shark, which is kind of, it's funny how this was placed after the bamboo sharks, but this one is a juvenile, and you can tell with the beautiful color pattern that it has. So tiger sharks actually do have tiger stripes when they're pups, and then they eventually fade into these like really big bars and blotches as they become adults. So this is a really, really gorgeous group of sharks, and they can get to formidable sizes and are legitimately dangerous. The weasel shark, Hemigalius microstoma, so cousin of Hemipristis. So really fun to see this species, especially with like such unique features like the falcate pectoral fins and dorsal fin. Very unique shape of the second dorsal fin, very sharp sickle-shaped lower caudal fin. So really, really cool group of sharks here, the weasel sharks. Who else do we have? We have Hemipristis elongata, the snaggletooth shark. So shout out to Howard. This is Howard's specialist species, or specialist genus. So snaggletooth sharks are really cool. They have a very gnarly dentition of having multiple cusplets. So very, very extreme tooth type. Given their size, this is probably also a predator of the Indonesian whaler shark. But these have a deeper depth limit, so these guys might be occupying a little bit of a deeper part of the reef than where they would run into the whaler sharks. Ooh, we got the short fin mako here, so pretty interesting photograph superimposed on the background. So this must have been a recently fished species, so endangered species. Also offshore, not really a shark that would come close to the reef, typically. The longfin mako, so this is a very interesting photograph of a fish species where the upper jaw is kind of protruding a little bit. But same family as shortfin makos, just less famous, less well known. These guys are really cool. They have these like very long pectoral fins, very akin to like oceanic white-tip sharks or blue sharks. Ooh, this one is interesting. Loxodon macrorinus, the slit-eye shark. So I believe Loxodon is in the same family as the Indonesian whaler shark. It's the same Carcharhinidae, but obviously very different genus. So this is actually this might be a fun pick for next week, because it's a very extreme looking kind of shark. It's very long and narrow, has these really large eyes, but these very small fins. So Loxodon macrorinus, slit-eye shark. We have to put a pin in that for potentially next week. So, oh cool. Howard, Indonesia is quite rich in fossil shark fauna. I have some Indonesian Hemipristis and Megalodon. Very cool. Very cool. That's actually especially fascinating that it's rich in prehistoric shark fauna, because it's also rich in living shark fauna too. So it's truly like a hotbed of biodiversity for sharks. This is a really sad photograph because blue sharks are just gorgeous in life, but there's blue shark, and actually really good example. This is kind of a tangent, but this is a really good example of this blue shark obviously was fished, and you can see that it's like a dull slaty kind of blue. In life, these are just a beautiful indigo kind of color, and it is a great, very, very startling example of when sharks are stressed out or deceased, they lose their color. They lose that kind of like that shimmer and shine. But when they're in life, they are extremely vibrant looking animals with a lot of iridescence and very, very complex. Even the ones that are typically like gray, they have complex. There's something about like a shark in the sun, like a shark's skin, like just like how it um, reflects sunlight. It's hard to describe. It's a very, very beautiful sight. We have the milk shark, Rhizopriononychus. So these are a really cool group of sharks that in the Atlantic sharpnose shark is an extremely successful species. And it looks like this guy is too, because it's least concern in terms of IUCN Red List. So it looks like milk sharks are doing just as well as their cousins in the Atlantic. What else do we have here? The spade nose shark, Scoliodon laticaudus. So pretty unusual looking shark, where it has an elongated rostrum that's flat. So it almost is kind of like a hammerhead, but in the opposite direction. Whereas like hammerheads are like laterally compressed, and spade nose sharks are like forward compressed, or like what's the word? Just they're anteriorly compressed. There we go. So this also might be a kind of a fun one to do, spade nose shark for next week, just because it's such an unusual looking shark. Let's see. Speaking of hammerheads, we got Sphenolewini, the scalloped hammerhead. So very prominent scalloped shape here. Critically endangered. We have Squalus megalops, a short-nosed spur dog. This is more of a deep water shark, so probably not a species that runs into the whaler shark. And I think that's it. I think that's all the species in this field guide. There's another one that looks really cool. This is by the Indio Ocean Project. And I kind of would like to go up to the top. Oh, here we go. Shark and ray identification. And it includes turtles too, which is kind of funny. But each chapter of this manual looks at sharks, rays, and turtles individually. It is good to master one chapter before moving on to the next. You must be able to identify all species manual by common species name, not Latin. Interesting. Indonesian citizens obtain up to and above 50% of their animal protein from fish. Indonesia's inhabitants are highly dependent on fisheries, seaweed farming, and marine tourism as their main sources of income. Local fishermen target schools of small pelagic fishes that form in the strong currents, as well as reef fish and sharks. Nusa Penida has a traditional law and awag-awag, allowing the community to protect their coastal resources, as well the MPA that is currently not enforced by law. Banaken has national MPA status, so MPA is Marine Protected Area. Banaken has national MPA status, and the park is locally well managed. Bira currently has no MPA, but is potentially within the spillover range of the nearby Taka Bonneret MPA. Fish production is expected to grow 18% in Indonesia by 2030. Increasing intensive utilization of coastal resources in relatively small coastal areas means the potential of conflict among different marine activities is high. We need to ensure the sustainability of important predatory species that regulate and maintain the health of the coral reef ecosystems. To achieve this, data collection and monitoring of consumed fish species is critical. The data we collect is shared with both the Coral Triangle Center and the Department of Fisheries, reporting on the effectiveness of the current MPA status and supporting necessary amendments of current rules. So we talk about it a lot on the channel, but marine protected areas are fantastic, where they help protect a population of fishes and allow them to grow and reproduce. And in so doing, they make for a healthier ecosystem, but they allow those fishes to attain a larger size and produce more offspring that can spill over into the non-protected areas that ultimately benefit the local economies that are fishing around the protected areas. So they can't fish inside them, but if they fish around them, they'll still get a better catch than if they were fishing in a non-protected area. The protected areas are kind of like this safe haven for fish to grow and reproduce and indirectly impact the nearby waters with healthier stocks, larger catches, and more fish. So it's a win-win. Let's see. So this guide will have a lot of the sharks that we've already covered, but we'll kind of add some details in terms of their conservation status and where they live in terms of their habitat. We'll see if the Indonesian whaler shark is included. It may not be, just because it's a kind of a less well-known species, but I'm curious. We'll see what we can learn with that. This is seltzer water, by the way. So I like how this has the ice and red list statuses. So the best one is least concern, which is just this little green one here. It means there's nothing wrong with it. It's kind of like a bunny, like an eastern cottontail. Like, this is a very abundant, or like deer. It's a very abundant species that is doing completely fine. Near threatened is a species that is currently doing okay, but there's something about its biology or something about its trajectory that is a little bit concerning, but it's not there yet. It didn't cross the threshold yet, but there's something about its life history that is a cause for concern. Vulnerable is crossing that threshold. Vulnerable is the first status that is things are not good. There's something going on with the species, and it's a shark that is being impacted in some way, but it's not necessarily endangered quite yet. Endangered obviously means that the shark is critically impacted by human activity or environmental impact, and it is in danger of going extinct. Critically endangered is the heightened status of that. It is the worst status you could possibly have while still being a living animal. And unfortunately, many sharks are critically endangered now. So it's the worst status, and these are the top conservation priority, the highest priority as far as sharks go. Data deficient it's a shark that is known, but we just don't have enough data on it. And this status can change. I mean, I've seen it change even in the decade plus I've been working with sharks. I've seen some species be assessed as data deficient and then switch to least concern. So, and then not evaluated. It's kind of a weird one. I guess it's just not assessed by the ISMR list at all. So there's no listing whatsoever. But I don't think I've ever really seen that before, to be honest. And then as far as this guide goes, and I'll put this guide in the chat because I think it's pretty interesting. I like how it breaks it down. As far as this guide goes, position of water column, benthic means on the bottom. So these are animals that like to sit near the seabed or on the seabed, like stingrays and woebegone sharks. Benthopelagic is live in or around the reef. So these are sharks like reef sharks that hunt around the reef and look for fishes that are hiding in the nooks and crannies. Or these sharks themselves sometimes will take a break in the nooks and crannies. Pelagic is swimming off the reef, in the blue, shallow or deep, like thresher sharks. So these are sharks that occupy the midwater column that can sometimes appear above the reef, sometimes can go offshore. They can be really anywhere, but they are active swimmers. They don't really tend to sit like other sharks can. So. Okay, so these look like silky sharks. You can well, actually, they almost look like dusky sharks. These are either duskies or silkies. I think these are silkies. So, let's see. Little chapter on sharks. We'll kind of skip most of this. Ecosystem importance. Larger pelagic sharks often have very few predators and at the top of the food web as apex predators, for example, tiger sharks. However, smaller reef sharks are eaten by larger fish, including sharks and groupers, such as the blacktip reef sharks. All shark species are important in reef ecosystems as they remove weak and sick fish and thereby ensure that only the healthiest individuals are left to breed. Studies have suggested that sharks promote an increase in both biodiversity and biomass in coral reef ecosystems. This is pretty interesting. So I'll read this just because I know we talk about reproduction a lot, but it is so important to understand that sharks are so incredibly diverse in terms of how they reproduce. I think a quick summary is helpful. So, sharks have separate sexes, and males have two external sex organs called claspers located on the ventral side of the body, between the pelvic fins. During mating, a male inserts one of his claspers into the opening cloaca of the female to transfer sperm packets, or spermatophores. The male bites the females in order for this to occur, and they often sink whilst mating, and the result is pretty clear mating scars present sometimes on both sexes. So related to that, female sharks tend to be larger, and they tend to have thicker skin than male sharks, and a big part of that is mating, where the thicker skin is protection. It's something that helps them as male sharks bite them to kind of find a position for mating. Embryos then develop in one of three ways depending on the species. Oviparity, which is egg laying. Egg laying with yolk sac nutrition, mermaid's purses. So these are sharks that actually lay eggs, just like reptiles lay eggs or birds lay eggs. Female sharks lay eggs that attach to rocks or coral. The developing embryo relies solely on the yolk sac for developmental nutrition. Gestation is 8 to 12 months. Examples are cat sharks and bamboo sharks. And then in the greater world, horn sharks are a good example. And viviparity, live birth with placental nutrition. So this is eerily similar to mammals, which is kind of wild. Once the yolk sac is absorbed, it elongates and attaches to the uterine wall, forming a yolk sac placenta. Gestation is 11 to 12 months. These are hammerhead sharks, gray reef shark. Really, any kind of, any kind of carcharhinid shark is viviparous. I believe every carcharhinid shark gives live birth. Angel sharks give live birth. I actually want to say dogfish. Actually, not dogfish, but angel sharks give live birth, and then carcharhinids give live birth. This is the weirdest one, ovoviviparity. So, live birth with egg-eating nutrition. Embryos developed internally, relying on the yolk sac, but after hatching, gain extra nutrition by consuming nearby undeveloped eggs, or oophagy. Gestation 10 to 15 months. So, a lot of sharks actually do this. And I'm pretty sure dogfish actually do that for the most part. The most extreme version is sand tiger sharks, or a lot of the mackerel sharks. Their siblings will actually, the largest embryo will eat its siblings in the womb, and that's literally what oophagy is, or oophagy. So sand tiger sharks are the most prominent species, but white sharks do that too. Mako sharks do that. Baskin sharks even do that, surprisingly. So this is definitely the most complicated, or definitely the trickiest mode to understand as far as reproduction goes for sharks. So, but all three exist, which is kind of incredible that sharks have, evolved in such a way that, a lot of species just look completely different, and their modes of reproduction are just completely different too. So, pretty fascinating. I like this little note. Additional virgin births have been witnessed in zebra sharks in aquariums, and embryophagy, embryo eating, has been documented in other ovoviviparous species. So, I like this little note because I think in the wild, parthenogenesis, which is like the technical term for virgin birth, it's probably very, very rare for sharks. So it's kind of funny that they made a note of it here, because it is really fascinating, but it's really rare. It's not really... the only times we've ever observed it, aside from zebra sharks, is bonnethead sharks, both in aquarium settings. But in both aquarium and wild, it's really rare. And I'm sure it's extremely rare in the wild too. So... interesting life cycle diagram of reef sharks. So you have mature adults, 12 months carrying young, birth. Oh, I see. What's kind of interesting is that this shows that the adults mate in the reef environment, and then the females go into inshore areas to give birth. So like seagrass areas. And these juveniles will grow to about 8 years, and then they'll reach sexual maturity in 8 years and then mate again in the reef area. So really cool, very simple diagram, but actually really cool illustration of how sharks move throughout their lives. Um, I mentioned at the top of the stream that I'm going to be camping on the eastern shore, and partially the goal is to go after sandbar shark pups. And what's kind of cool is that this relates to that, where sandbar sharks, the adults are in Florida, and they do come up the coast every summer, but the females will come up the coast and actually go into the Chesapeake Bay, just like this reef shark is doing. It's going into an inshore area. And the sandbar sharks here are giving birth to live young who utilize the seagrass meadows in the Chesapeake Bay, and they will stay there as a nursery. And I'm hoping, selfishly, to kind of run into one as I explore next weekend. So, but it's actually really cool that as a population, sandbar sharks undertake huge migrations where they'll be in Florida and then go up north. And the males will still remain offshore, but the females will come inshore to give birth. And then they'll linger in the area a little bit. They'll continue to go further north, like into New Jersey and Massachusetts. And then all of them, both the adults and the smaller sharks, will start to slowly make their way down south in the fall. Probably around October, late September, mid-October is when they'll really... Actually, not late September. October is when they'll make their migration back. So it's so cool to see that this one species does all these different moves and like has these different seasonal patterns. And it's kind of cool seeing this little simple diagram of reef sharks, seeing how adult reef sharks mate, go into inshore areas to give birth, and then the juveniles will eventually kind of follow in their, I'm about to say footsteps, but I guess swim movements, I don't know. Anyway, really cool to see. Threats. Sharks are fished primarily for their fins, which are used in shark fin soup, as well as for their meat for a variety of uses. 100 million sharks are caught each year, and in many cases their fins are removed and the rest discarded, which is finning. Millions of sharks are also caught as a bycatch in commercial fishing. On top of this, overfishing, habitat destruction, climate change, and other anthropogenic pressures are causing serious declines in populations, pushing some species to the brink of extinction. I will say still, it's 2026, and to this day we have not had an extinct shark. Knock on wood. We have at least 2 species that are extremely close, but we have not witnessed an extinction yet. I do want to check IUCN to make absolutely sure, because there's 2 species that are very, very close. We've got, let's do Pondicherry shark, which I'm so glad that we actually covered this species on the stream. Pondicherry shark is critically endangered. So this is a shark that also lives in a similar habitat and actually has a larger range in Oman in India and southern China. But we estimate there's 249 individuals left. This is a shark that's extremely close to extinction, but I'm still hanging in there for now. There's also the lost shark, which is still critically endangered, so it's not declared extinct yet, and I hope it never is, but the estimated number of individuals is 0 to 49, so this is probably the closest one to potentially becoming extinct. And sadly, it's near where our shark lives, too. Like the Indonesian Whaler Shark, it's kind of occupying a similar habitat. So this map is showing possibly extinct areas for the species. So, and I believe we covered this stream not last year, but maybe the year prior. I think we covered the species on one of the earlier streams. So if you haven't seen that episode, please go ahead and check it out. Lost shark and Pondicherry shark, those 2 species are probably the closest to going extinct. So Howard, yes, stop finning now. I'm going to star that, and I completely agree. And no extinctions that we know of. I'm going to star that too. What's interesting is the emerging field of, well, not emerging, but the field of genetics and how it's revealing different shark species hiding in plain sight. I am a little worried of are there species hiding in plain sight that we haven't caught? We haven't really understood that they're different species, and have any of those species already been removed or gone extinct? It's kind of hard to tell, So, but I'm glad that we're drawing attention to the lost shark and the Pondicherry shark. And I'm glad that we talk about a lot of different sharks in the stream to kind of give them more attention and to draw more attention to them, and kind of talk about their conservation needs and where they live and what their status is. A lot of sharks that we do talk about are doing okay, which is great, but it's important to highlight the ones that are not okay. So, for sharks, let's see. Oh, actually, this is kind of interesting. Now, I'm going to read this because this is something we don't see too often in a field guide, and I actually really appreciate this. So, excuse me. So, there's kind of an idea in some shark science books that talk about shark body form and kind of group sharks into different large categories just based on their body plan. And it's not classifying them based on their taxonomy or evolution, but it's classifying them based on their ecological role, or the space and niche that they occupy. So a good example of this kind of exercise would be like bats and birds. Like bats and birds have a completely different evolution, but kind of put them in the same bucket in terms of these are small animals that fly. So there's kind of this whole approach to sharks that classifies them in this way. And I think this field guide is addressing that, and I'd like to take a moment to read that, just because it's a fascinating, different way of thinking as far as sharks go. But here we go. Shark species we're identifying display two different body forms of a possible form. So you have coastal shark species and bottom-dwelling coastal shark species. So coastal shark species occupy pelagic or reef zones. They have a more flattened head, which I kind of disagree with. Many of these sharks have a round head, but okay. Large pectoral fins, which I agree with. Less deep body. Tail with smaller lower lobe. Broader caudal peduncle with no lateral keels. And the example would be reef sharks. So, I think the key takeaways are the large pectoral fin and the lower lobe of the caudal fin being shorter than the upper lobe. I think those are good identifiers of this kind of first category. And then the other thing, too, would be the size of the first dorsal fin versus the second. If this first dorsal fin is significantly larger than the second dorsal fin, it's probably a shark that's more of an active swimmer. Bottom-dwelling coastal species, the benthic group, have a larger head, short pectoral fins, posterior first dorsal fin. And that's true. So if the dorsal fin is further back on the body, that's typically a slower moving species. Tail with much smaller lower lobe. Oh, I see. I think I got that. I'm so sorry. I think I got that mixed up. Sorry. If the upper and lower caudal lobe are equal in size, that means it's a fast-moving shark. If the upper caudal lobe is much larger than the lower caudal lobe, that means it's a slow-moving shark. I got them confused. My apologies. So, large subterminal notch. In the species example is a sand tiger shark, also known as a snaggletooth shark. So it's kind of interesting where you can sort of guess at ecological niche based on the body plan. So for the sand tiger shark in particular, if you compare it to the shark on the top, the two dorsal fins are relatively equal in size, which implies a slower lifestyle, slower swimming speed, and then the lower caudal lobe being significantly smaller than the upper caudal lobe, also a slower or implication of a slower swimming style. When you look at all the cat sharks, it's the same thing, where the cat sharks will have two similar sized dorsal fins and then a very long upper caudal lobe and a very short lower caudal lobe. So, you know, let's see. So shark species that they have here, we've got gray reef shark again. Let's see. Near threatened. I'm just going to read the species and conservation status. So, pretty popular species with divers. Black tip reef shark, so Carcharhinus melanopterus, beautiful shark, near threatened as well. So these two are doing relatively okay. White tip reef shark is near threatened. Also a very famous species of this region. Silver tip shark, near threatened. This was not in the other guide, but this is a really, really beautiful species. Black tip shark is a vulnerable species. Sicklefin lemon shark, an endangered species. So this is a shark that we've actually covered, I think, in one of our first streams. They have a really extreme look. I love the falcate pectoral fins here. We've got tiger sharks, which are near threatened. Pelagic thresher shark, also known as the oceanic thresher, is an endangered species. Snaggletooth shark, vulnerable species. It's uncommon in Penida, rare in Bura and Banakan. It's a solitary kind of shark that likes oceanic, sandy, and reef areas. Hammerhead, so you got the scalped hammerhead, which is critically endangered. Uncommon in Penida and Bura and extremely rare in Banakan. It's kind of cool that you could see in this guide, and let me make sure I put this guide in the chat. Because I really like how it's kind of listing the habitat where you'll find these sharks. So this one is saying open water of seaward reef for the species. You have the great hammerhead, oceanic, rarely on the reef. This is a critically endangered species. Whale sharks, which are endangered, sadly. Oceanic, occasionally around the reefs. Indonesian woebegone shark, which is not evaluated. The spotted woebegone, which is near threatened. Beautiful species that we covered. Coral cat shark, gorgeous shark, is also nearly threatened. Tawny nurse shark, which is a vulnerable species. Brown banded bamboo shark, near threatened. And I think that's it as far as sharks go. I won't read all the rays, but I do want to kind of skip ahead to the turtles because I just want to. I think it's kind of cool that this is a guide that has both sharks, rays, and turtles. Got manta rays. Oh, we talked about manta rays recently, but it's actually really cool to see there's an oceanic manta ray, Mobula birostris, and a reef manta ray, Mobula alfredi. So there's two different kinds of manta rays. We got devil rays. Eagle rays? Eagle rays, yeah. Cownose rays. Stingrays. This one's gorgeous. The blue spotted ribbon-tail ray. It's a beautiful, beautiful species. Actually, if I can, I'd like to zoom in on it. Just because it's such a gorgeous color pattern. I don't think we've really seen the species on the channel before. But look at that neon blue. This is just a really, really pretty ray. Ooh, we got the marbled stingray, also a real beauty of this region. A mangrove whipray, a really nice black and white color scheme. And then the turtles. I'm just kind of curious what the notes that they have on the turtles. A lot of turtle notes. Loggerhead turtle. Fun fact, I was talking about sharks are cosmopolitan, but turtles are also very, very cosmopolitan. So I'm going to predict a lot of these species also occur in the Atlantic. So loggerhead, it's actually a turtle that you can see in Virginia. It's Virginia's most populous turtle. I've seen loggerheads in the wild myself, so this is kind of like our most common in this part of the world. It's just kind of cool to see that it's also a species that exists in Indonesia. It's kind of amazing. Green sea turtle. This is a very populous tropical species, so it's kind of cool to see that they're in Indonesia, but they're also very populous in Florida. We don't really see them up here too much because the water's too cold for them, but they can come up here, but it's not their favorite. Hawksbill turtle. So this is also a species that we have, but also a species that prefers warm water, so it's more of a tropical-oriented turtle. The olive ridley. I don't think we have those. I think this is a kind of turtle that's just in the Pacific, if I'm not mistaken. So really cool to see it. The leatherback. These guys are huge. These are like the dinosaur turtles. These are just incredible species. We actually do have them up here. And I would love to see one in the wild. There's no other sea turtle that looks like leatherback sea turtles. They attain enormous size, so 2.4 meters, which is about, if I have that right, about 7 feet long. So, larger than a person. It's kind of amazing to think about a turtle larger than a person, but they're gentle giants. They eat primarily jellyfish. Is kind of their favorite food item. And that's it. Okay. So it's fun to kind of see sort of the background for the Indonesian whaler shark. The different kinds of animals that, and large, charismatic animals like the sharks, the rays, and the turtles of Indonesia. It's kind of cool to see, the background in terms of like where the shark lives and which species it occupies the reef with. And there's quite a few species that probably predate on this one. So we talked about bull sharks and probably the snaggletooth shark. But there's also probably species that this shark eats too. Like the little cat sharks are probably prey items for it. So I think now is a good time to dive into this shark specifically and see what we can learn about the Indonesian whaler shark. So in more detail, we learned that species name comes from the Indonesian word for shark, which is tjutjot. The lower depth limit is 100 meters, so it's a pretty fairly shallow water tropical species. Biology: an inshore species likely to be found in less than 100 meters depth. One female specimen contained 2 late-term embryos measuring 28 and 28.5 centimeters. Probable size of birth is between 34 and 38 centimeters. We had a nice view of the jaws. Oh, lousy drawing. I just saw that comment, Howard. Lousy drawing of the snaggletooth. I agree. Let's like yours is a lot better. It's like night and day because it's funny. Like these rays look really beautiful. And sharks, objectively, they're really difficult to draw. They're really, really... Yeah, there we go. And actually, let's kind of compare. So, because I've seen this image before. You've got this beautiful hammerhead image from Mark Dando. This is definitely a Mark Dando drawing. Just the life he brings to it, the accuracy. This is an incredible drawing here. And then in comparison, you've got this really not so good blotchy, blorpy, snaggletooth shark. And I'm not sure where this comes from, but this is definitely not a Mark Dando drawing. The things that are just kind of wrong with it are there's not really a smoothness in the head. The everything looks kind of squished and compressed, and I almost want to say that this is probably drawn from a deceased specimen. Um, they just the fins and how they all relate to one another. It looks like this is based off of a photograph because it's like a little too accurate. It's a little too accurate to be just a shot in the dark, but it's too poor to be based off of like a living specimen. It's I think it's probably an attempt at drawing it from a deceased specimen. So let's see. So for the Indonesian whaler shark, let's see. Short description: a small species of Carcharhinus with a relatively long and bluntly pointed snout. Upper interior teeth oblique and blade-like, coarsely serrated. This is basically the same description as Wikipedia. Or sorry, Fishbase. Oh, more images of the teeth though. So actually this is great that we can see a closer view of what these teeth look like. So look at that. So you have these actually pretty prominent interior serrations here. But then you have these like pretty strong cusplets in the rear of the tooth. So very unique looking tooth type. And I like that, each tooth has a bit of a different shape. So the one right here looks a little bit more lower. And then as you get further back into the jaw, the cusplets get a little bit bigger. And they mean business. Lower teeth a bit more simpler by comparison. And multiple rows too, so it looks like maybe 2 to 3 functional rows. It's really astounding to see how sharks' teeth are layered like this, Here is a great jaw set here, great, very, very well preserved jaw set, and very well cleaned and very well angled. And you can actually see the teeth kind of pulling back, like pointing back into the mouth. So if a shark bites down like something like a squid or a fish, it's hard for that prey item to get out. Let's see. Fish idea for Carcharhinus tjutjot, Indonesian Whaler Shark. So this actually looks very similar to what we saw in the clip of this species. So I think they might be the same. The characteristic features are the first dorsal fin moderately tall and triangular, second dorsal fin with conspicuous black tip, but all other fins plain, interdorsal ridge usually present, snout moderately long, broadly parabolic. Oh, actually, let's see if we can see the interdorsal ridge on this species. This is going to be hard because it's too grainy, but I mean, it almost looks like it doesn't have a, well, if I zoom out, maybe this will kind of show it. Hold on. So the interdorsal ridge is a very useful feature for identifying Carcharhinus sharks. It's a great, easy way to separate a group of Carcharhinus from others, or one group of Carcharhinus from other groups. Bull sharks do not have that ridge, but sandbar sharks do. There's like a huge swath of Carcharhinus that don't have the ridge and a huge swath that do. It's really hard to tell from this clip in this lighting whether or not the shark has a ridge because it would show between the two dorsal fins. It's like there's some shots where I want to say it does, and there's some shots I want to say it doesn't. Maybe in this scene. Let's see. It's really hard to tell. I feel like I see it, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, very, very difficult to tell. Let's see. Habitat mostly demersal inshore to about 107 meters in depth, so it's a little bit deeper than we were reading. Feeds primarily on fish, but also crustaceans and cephalopods. Commonly caught by bottom trawl and inshore demersal gillnet fisheries, utilized for fins, meat, but of limited value due to its size, which is great. We love if there's no fishing target on the species. Similar species, they identified Carcharhinus ceelii, the black spot shark, which is kind of cool because we pointed that one out earlier too. So, as a shark that looks maybe similar. Carcharhinus ceelii differs in having a strongly falcate first dorsal fin versus not falcate. The snout is narrowly parabolic versus broadly parabolic. Upper teeth flanked on one side by strong, smooth edge cusplets, and lower teeth often with cusplets. Okay. For Indonesian whaler shark, the global conservation status is vulnerable, so it is a vulnerable species. So not as bad as endangered, definitely not as bad as the lost shark or the Pondicherry shark, which overlap the range, but still not good. So let's see. The Indonesian whaler shark, Carcharhinus tjutjot, is a small shark to at least 94 centimeters total length with a patchy known distribution in Southeast Asia, Java, Borneo, and Taiwan, although it probably occurs more widely. It is an inshore species that mostly inhabits depth less than 100 meters and is particularly susceptible to inshore fisheries. Inshore populations of similar species, like the white-cheeked shark, Carcharhinus dusumniari, have declined dramatically in other regions of the world. Although the Indonesian whaler shark likely matures early and breeds annually, the low reproductive capacity, the usual litter size of 2 pups, make it susceptible to overexploitation. The limited extent of the species distribution, combined with the intensive fishing pressures across its entire range, as well as habitat degradation, lead to a suspected population decline of greater than 30% over the past 3 generations, with further population reduction suspected over the future 3 generation lengths, based on potential levels of exploitation and decline in the quality of habitat. Thus, the species is assessed as vulnerable. So, pretty similar to... oh, Howard, I just saw these comments, by the way. Tiger sharks love turtles? Yes, 100%. Tiger sharks are a huge sea turtle predator, and they have the way their teeth and their jaws work is almost uniquely specialized to help dismember sea turtles. So that's a really cool comment, by the way. Looks like a poor beagle cross. For the... It kind of does. For the... I'm sorry, for the... I see what you're saying. For the... this one. Oh, sorry. It kind of does for the Hemiprisis drawing. And only because the artist kind of left this like large cheek area, and the eyes are like proportionally kind of like larger too. So it's kind of funny, like inadvertently, it almost looks like a poor beagle, which is funny. And I'm looking over at my poor beagle drawing on the wall, so for comparison. But let's see if do I have that on. I've been posting a lot of my drawings on the channel, by the way. I don't know if I put the poor beagle on. Let's see. On the post page, we got the challenge. We got the sand tiger shark, which I finished, but I think I colored it a little weirdly, so I'm probably gonna have to redo it. But the black and white, I'm really proud of. Like just the angle, just very, very happy with how that came out, honestly. Fossils, more fossils. The white shark I was very proud of. Um, basking shark I'm very proud of. I don't think I put the porbeagle up here, so I'll have to take a picture and load it onto the community page because I think it's probably one of my best drawings. So I think this is a little bit of a tangent, but I think you guys might like it. So, um, but yeah, for the Indonesian whaler shark, oh, I see. It just looks overstuffed somehow. I definitely agree with the hemiprisus drawing. So yeah, I don't know if I can. Yeah, I'll take a picture of the poor beagle and post it on the chat. Actually, I wonder if I could do. Um, this is so silly. I think I can actually probably do this live. I think I could do a poor beagle airdrop. Hold on. Let me see if I could do that. I think I can do this. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can get this poor beagle image loaded because I'm pretty proud of it. So okay, and I'm gonna see if we could pull up a photo of the not photo research on the Indonesian whaler shark simultaneously. Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay. Sorry. This is my poor beagle. So I was just very happy with how it came out. Just I feel like the proportions were pretty okay as far as because like again all sharks are really hard to draw. The big thing is it's really hard to get the angle of the pectoral fin and the dorsal fin, the eyes and stuff. But I'm actually really proud of this. Like and poor beagles have kind of interesting like little subtle coloration features. So they have a white margin on their rear tip of the pectoral fins, or not the rear tip, but the what do you call that? The inner corner of the pectoral fins have a white margin. Pelvic fins have a white margin. You can kind of barely see the white margin on the edge of the first dorsal fin. Eyes are fairly large. The mouth comparatively is a bit smaller. The keels are huge, and the head is just like other kinds of mackerel sharks. The head is like just this conical torpedo shape. So I was very happy with how this turned out. This is probably one of my favorite shark drawings. So I'll put it on the community page later. But yeah, poor beagle. So and kind of fun comparison with this as far as like the. Oh, thank you, appreciate it. And thank you for the Sand Tiger comment too. I really appreciate that. I'm getting back into it. Getting back into the shark drawings. It's been like I haven't really. I've tried to like do it a couple times, and I've all of these recent drawings I've been committing like a month to. Where it's like sharks are just so tricky, and I just kind of with my schedule, I just want to make sure that I devote you know like time to sit down and actually like really focus on how all the proportions work. So it's been really fun, and I think the art is much better than I've ever done prior. Like I like sharks I've tried to draw earlier look generally accurate, but it's like I could tell like the differences and stuff as far as like trying to get the proportions right. So, but I appreciate that, Howard. Thank you. This random collection that I'm putting together, it's definitely the best shark drawings I've ever made. So I'm very, very happy with them. Let's see. We have a couple of different general shark studies, but oh, here's one that's actually specific. Here we go. Molecular morphological evidence for the identity of the black spot shark, Carcharhinus ceelii, and the Indonesian whaler shark, Carcharhinus tjutjot, with notes on their population structures. Let's see. So this is. Let's see. by Azi Azri, Hussein Taha, and Takomi Arai. The requiem sharks of the genus Carcharhinus are captured as bycatch in the Indo-Pacific region. The lack of morphometric data due to the common practice of head and fin removal of sharks hinders the implementation of shark management measures. Carcharhinus specimens found in the waters of Brunei, Darussalam, were identified using morphological analysis, and their identification was further validated by mitochondrial cytochrome C oxidase subunit I gene sequence analysis. This study successfully identified 27 specimens as either the black spot shark or the Indonesian whaler shark by molecular genetic analysis, although the difficulty of accurately identifying these sharks solely on morphology was encountered. Mitochondrial COI gene sequence analysis also suggested that Carcharhinus tjutjot has two genetically distinct populations, while the Carcharhinus coelii has a single panmictic population in the Indo-Pacific region. The findings suggest that Carcharhinus coelii could be a more highly migratory species than Carcharhinus tjutjot in the region. So that's actually really interesting. The Indonesian whaler shark might have two or more localized populations that don't interact with each other, whereas the black spot shark might have a larger range. But that's kind of wild that a small Carcharhinus species may have different populations that don't genetically interact. And we know that this, in different parts of its range, there's some real critically endangered sharks as a result of the fishing practices. So Indonesia also has some great areas conservation-wise. There's some real serious marine protected areas in Indonesia, but that's actually really interesting and a little concerning that the Indonesian whaler shark might have some high site fidelity, might stick to a certain range or certain reefs, and to such a degree that subpopulations may not interact. So really fascinating. So okay, something different about the species, or specific. Let's see. Also, we'll read the abstract of this. So because the other article alluded to it, but this has been a really hot field of trying to identify sharks just with DNA. So if you're in like a fisheries market, or if you're in like a Hong Kong fisheries market, if you have a DNA sample of a shark and you can cross-reference it with the database of like what's a critically endangered species, what's not, you're able to identify, okay, this is poaching, and act accordingly. So related to that, genome skimming with the Minion handheld sequencer identifies sites listed shark species in India's export market. This is by Shaili Johri, Jitesh Solanki, Vito Adrian Cantu, Sam R. Fellows, Robert A. Edwards, Isabel Moreno, Acid Vies, and Elizabeth A. Dinsdale. Chondrichthyes, sharks, rays, skates, and chimeras are among the most threatened and data-deficient vertebrate species. Global demand for shark and ray-derived products drives unregulated and exploitative fishing practices, which are in turn facilitated by the lack of ecological data required for effective conservation of these species. Here we described a next-generation sequencing method using Minion, a handheld portable sequencing device from Oxford Nanopore Technologies, an analyses pipeline for molecular ecological studies in chondrichthyes. Using this method, the complete mitochondrial genome and nuclear intergenic and protein coding sequences were obtained by direct sequencing of genomic DNA obtained from shark fin tissue. Recovered loci include mitochondrial barcode sequences, cytochrome oxidase 1, NADH2, 16S RNA, and 12S RNA, and nuclear genetic loci such as 5.8S RNA, internal transcribed spacer 2, and 28S RNA regions, which are commonly used for taxonomic identification. Other loci recovered were the nuclear protein coding genes for antithrombin, or serpin-C, immunoglobulin lambda light chain, Science it's an entirely different language, isn't it? Preprogerilin, selenium binding protein 1, interleukin, 1 beta and recombination activating gene, or RAG1. The median coverage across all genetic loci was 20 times, and sequence accuracy was greater than or equal to 99.8%. That's incredible compared to reference sequences. Analysis of nuclear ITS2 region in the mitochondrial protein-encoded loci allowed accurate taxonomic identification of shark specimen as Carcharhinus falciformis, a CITES Appendix 2 species. Minion sequencing provided 1.15 million base pairs of new shark genome, increasing the number of sequenced shark genomes to 5. Phylogenetic analysis using both mitochondrial and nuclear loci provided evidence that Prionis glauca, the blue shark, is nested within Carcharhinus, suggesting the need for taxonomic reassignment of Prionis glauca. So this is actually really cool. This is suggesting that the blue shark actually might be a Carcharhinus. That's wild. We increased genomic information about the shark species for ecological and population genetic studies, enabled accurate identification of the shark tissue for biodiversity indexing, and resolved phylogenetic relationships among multiple taxa. This method was independent of amplification bias and adaptable for field assessment of other chondrichthyes and wildlife species in the future. I won't read the whole thing, of course, but it's a really interesting paper. So, unfortunately, here is a part of a shark from one of these markets. But with the sequencer, you can take a tissue sample and identify genetically what species that is. And with that, you can help determine, is this a poaching or is this a species that is legally caught? This is actually pretty interesting. So, phylogenetic tree. Bayesian estimates of relationships among Carcharhinus species. So in both trees, I love that the tiger shark is completely unrelated to the other groups, and that's true. Like tiger sharks are, they've been reassigned to their own family just because they're biologically just very, very different. They used to be considered Carcharhinidae, but they're just very different. This is also interesting. The sandbar shark is actually treated a little bit as an outlier too. And it's weird that the blue shark is nested within the sandbar shark. It's actually kind of fascinating. So it's nested more inclusively than the sandbar shark is. Other interesting little notes are the blue shark is closely related to the silky shark. And that's not a surprise. They both occupy very similar open ocean niches. They both have large pectoral fins and small dorsal fins. What else is here? We've got black-nosed sharks and spinner sharks being close. Carcharhinus lucus, the bull shark, and the pig-eye shark. That is not a surprise at all because those look eerily similar to the point where those two species are very easily confused. Carcharhinus tjutjot, or tjutjot, so the Indonesian whaler shark, is here with Carcharhinus macladi. And then you have Carcharhinus longomontanus and Carcharhinus obscurus, so dusky shark and oceanic white-tip shark. Those two are deemed as very closely related as well, which is also not a surprise. They're both coastal pelagic species. More so the oceanic white-tip shark is pelagic species. Wow, look at this. I love seeing these like phylogenetic relationships charts. So you got Carcharhinus tjutjot and Carcharhinus dusimieri, the white cheek shark and the Indonesian whaler shark being treated as very similar to one another. You got the fine-toothed shark and black-nosed shark in the same group. Ultimus and plumbeus, so the big-nosed shark and the sandbar shark, that makes sense. Those two species are always confused with one another, so implying that they're very closely related. Let's see, the blue shark is still nested within Carcharhinus and still closely related to silky shark. Dusky shark and Galapagos shark, both of them get confused really often, and they're all closely related to the oceanic white-tip shark, so that makes sense. Lucas, the bull shark, and the pig-eye shark are still close. Bronze whaler and spinner shark, it's interesting. So really cool chart overall. it's really amazing to see genetically this phylogenetic tree, like how these species of sharks, like how closely related they are, um, and the relationships, how some sharks that actually look very similar to one another are actually genetically very similar to one another. So okay, let's see what else we can learn. Let's see. It's more genetic studies. It's kind of cool to see that the shark is in the focus of a lot of genetic stuff. Complete mitochondrial genome of the Indonesian whaler shark Carcharhinus tjutjot. In this study, we present the complete mitochondrial genome of the Indonesian whaler shark Carcharhinus tjutjot. It is 16,705 base pairs in length and encodes 37 mitochondrial genes with the typical gene order and transcriptional direction in vertebrates. The overall nucleotide base content is 31.6% A. So these are like the basic pieces of the DNA: A, C, G, and T. Total of 33 base pairs short, overlaps of 22 base pairs short intergenetic spaces were found at 9 and 10, 11 gene junctions. This is all genetic, like details of how the genetic code is structured, but it's so cool. What else we have? Okay, this is, I think, a checklist, a field guide. Carcharhinus tjutjot, type locality in Jakarta, Java, Indonesia. The 2 Taiwanese samples of Carcharhinus tjutjot included in this analysis formed a single cluster that includes the sample of the species from Indonesian Borneo and is a sister to the Carcharhinus dusimieri clade from the northwestern Indian Ocean. A recent revision of the Carcharhinus dusimieri and Carcharhinus celii complex, informed by both molecular and morphological data, resurrected Carcharhinus tjutjot as a valid nominal species. So apparently the Indonesian whaler shark was discarded as a species and then is brought back into the scientific fold as legitimately its own species, which is pretty interesting. Okay. There's one more paper. Oh, this is it. I did want to show this really quick, and I think this might be our last thing for tonight, but I'll provide some context before reading what that is. So, this is high overexploitation risk due to management shortfall in highly traded requiem sharks by C. Samantha Sherman, Eric D. Deagle, Patrick Zubik, Jonathan Egged, Egged, I apologize. Alifa B. Hauk, J.H. Matsushiba, Colin A. Simpfendorfer, Glenn Sant, and Nicholas Dolvey. Simpfendorfer has done a lot of shark work, actually. Most of the international trade in fins, and likely meat too, is derived from requiem sharks, the family Carcharhinidae, yet trade in only 2 of the 56 species is currently regulated. Here we quantify catch, trade, and shortfall in national and regional fisheries management for all 56 requiem shark species based on 831 assessments across 30 countries and 4 regional fisheries management organizations, or RFMOs. Requiem sharks comprise over half of the annual reported contra-Canadian catch, with most species identified in the international fin trade. Requiem sharks are inadequately managed by fisheries, with an average M risk of half and of an ideal score. Consequently, 70% of species are threatened globally. The high catch and trade volume and shortfall management of these iconic species requires worldwide fisheries management for sustainable catch, supported by full implementation of CITES regulations for international trade of this newly listed family. So, what's really cool is kind of in the name of the study. There were some other models created, including this. Global maps of species richness of all requiem sharks, which is figure A. Average management scores for all 56 species of requiem sharks in each country assessed, which is figure B. And in the high seas is managed by the 4 tuna regional fisheries management organizations. So MRIS score. So I want to zoom in on this top map in particular because it is actually really fascinating. Here we go. So talking about Indonesia in particular, the darker the color here, the more species rich this place is for requiem sharks. So requiem sharks, in the evolutionary sense, they really kind of like took over tropical seas. They're the dominant predatory shark group of tropical waters. It used to be, you can make an argument that mackerel sharks kind of used to be that. But there's been some, like, I don't want to say it's debate, but there's been some theorizing that when waters warmed, requiem sharks were able to kind of grow and occupy all these new niches. And they've really been incredible animals, incredibly successful animals in tropical and warm temperate waters. They dominate in these areas. And it's really cool to see that as far as species richness goes, there's a huge concentration of requiem sharks in these reef areas in northern Australia, Indonesia, and the southern coast of Asia. It's just so interesting to see how populous requiem sharks are in this region and how coastal they are. They love the coral reef environment. The open ocean is not so speciose. And what's kind of interesting is that in these lighter areas, these are probably occupied by the blue shark, the silky shark, and the oceanic white-tip shark. But when you get close to the coast, that's when you're starting to get into like bull sharks and black-tip sharks, black-tip reef sharks, white-tip reef sharks. Like there's a whole plethora of species. It's kind of cool when you see on the eastern coast of the United States. It's actually really fascinating. Look at the United States. So you have the east coast of the U.S., where you have the extremely warm waters of the Gulf Stream, and they go past Florida, up the coastline, and they start to break off into the cold North Atlantic. But you have a high species richness of requiem sharks up this coastline, all the way up to even Nova Scotia. And compare that to the west coast of the United States for requiem sharks. The west coast is much colder than the east coast. So a lot of requiem sharks don't want to be on the west coast. They don't want to go up there. So you have in Southern California, I know you have bull sharks in Southern California. I think you have a couple other species here too. But that's it. And Southern California is the only place you'll get requiem sharks. North, you get just, orange sharks, maybe you definitely get seven-needle sharks, leopard sharks, but you won't get requiem sharks. So interesting. Another factor that might influence that might be the whales. Whales are very populous in the Cascades region, so in the Pacific Northwest. So it's kind of that might affect requiem shark distribution because it definitely affects white shark distribution. Where whales predate on white sharks and discourage sharks from being there. But I think it's mostly temperature, personally, because the west coast of the United States is far colder than the east coast. And the only reason the east coast is warmer is because of the Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream is this conveyor belt of warm water, this like river in the ocean that carries warm water northwestward. And it makes higher latitudes unusually warmer than they would have been. You can actually see that here where, at the same latitude as where France is, it's freezing cold in, Washington State or British Columbia, but in France the water's a bit warmer just because of the Gulf Stream and how that works. So it's really fascinating how the requiem shark distribution kind of is sort of a dipstick for general oceanic patterns. It's so interesting. So. As far as MRIS score, if I'm seeing this correctly, it looks like Australia and the United States are pretty high up there in terms of conservation measures. Other parts of the world, not so much. And not a surprise. It's really not a surprise because like the two leaders in shark science, Canada's extremely high up there too. It's actually great. So Canada, the United States, actually New Zealand is too. So United States, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, they're all very high on just kind of the conservation measures that they have in place for sharks, which is wonderful. And I was about to say that the United States and Australia in particular, those have been some of the biggest leaders in shark science and shark ecology and conservation. So it's kind of cool to see that painted pretty starkly in the chart too. And then these are just these are regional tuna commission management regions, and the tuna commission relates to shark conservation ultimately because sharks are also pelagic species, or cosmopolitan species. But the biodiversity map, like the species richness map, I think is the most interesting thing. So, yeah. Overall, I think we might wrap up soon, but this was, here we go. I'm going to end on this clip with this potential Indonesian whaler shark. I think it is one, just because of the shape of the dorsal fin, the roundedness of the snout, the dark kind of patch on the second dorsal fin. It lines up with Indonesian whaler shark characteristics. But it's also kind of a really interesting clip with all these other sharks, many of which we've talked about on prior streams, in the same tank. So pretty interesting stuff. But thank you guys so much for watching. I think we'll end like a little bit earlier tonight. And I appreciate you sharing this time with me, because I don't know if you could tell, I'm definitely like I'm in a happy place, but I am quite tired. It is a definitely a Monday, and we crunched through a lot of cool science with the Indonesian whaler shark, and we learned a lot about it, and also a lot about just shark, conservation in general, and biodiversity in general, and biodiversity hotspots. So it's been really cool to learn this, and also to take a look at the general region and see what sharks live there. But I appreciate you guys watching, and for next week, leave a comment. Even if the stream is over, just leave a comment in the chat of a genus that you would like to cover. I have a couple suggestions. So I think Loxodon might be really cool. I believe that's a slit-eye shark, so we touched on it earlier tonight, but that one actually might be pretty interesting. And then I want to say it's me too, Zach Lonte. Thank you for understanding. Yeah, so nothing bad. It's just kind of more like, I don't know. It's a Monday, but it's not a bad Monday. It's just kind of like I'm definitely quite drowsy. But let me know if there's any particular shark you'd like to cover for next week. And again, thank you so much for sharing this time, but also for the support regarding like the drawings and just just being here and asking questions and just talking about sharks and sharing the space about sharks. So it's good to be back and good to talk about new species, especially one that doesn't get a lot of attention. And I really appreciate spending time talking about it. But until then, I hope you all have a great... Loxodon sounds great. Okay, perfect. So we'll do Loxodon next week. Until then, I hope you all have a great weekend. And then for the US, it is Memorial Day weekend, which is a long weekend. So if anybody has plans, I hope you enjoy them. And then wish me luck in terms of hopefully finding sandbar shark pups. We will see what happens this weekend. I will absolutely post the minute I run into one. Hopefully I'll see one. I will definitely post it. But anyway, until then, hope you all have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week for Loxodon, which is going to be a really cool stream. But thanks for taking the time, and I'll see you later. Have a good night, guys.